Aragorn, From Exile to the Twers. The story of Middle-earth's last king. In the history of Middle-earth, many kings came and went. Some were remembered for their power, others for their falls. But there was only one man who, though the throne was his by birthright, chose to prove himself before claiming it. His name was hidden, his identity concealed. For years he wandered foreign lands like a shadow. That man was Aragorn, Isildur's heir, bearer of the broken sword, and the last High King of Middle-earth. If you don't yet know this story, subscribe to Extreme Stories, because today I'm taking you on Aragorn's complete journey as told in the books. Aragorn was born on March 1st, 2099, in the Third Age. His father was Arathorn II, the 15th chieftain of the Dúnedain. His mother was Gilrain. His birth was no ordinary event. His grandmother, Ivorwen, who possessed the gift of foresight, had foreseen that a great hope for their people would be born from the union of Arathorn and Gilrain. Gilrain's father, Andúril, had opposed the marriage because he sensed that Arathorn would not live long. His prediction proved true. When Aragorn was only 2 years old, his father was killed by an orc arrow to the eye while hunting orcs with Elrond's sons, Elladan and Elrohir. The successive early deaths of the Dúnedain chieftains showed that Isildur's line was being systematically hunted. Aragorn's grandfather Eredor had also been slain earlier by hill trolls. After his father's death, Gilrain took her young son and sought refuge in Rivendell. Elrond accepted the child as his foster son and gave him the name Estil, which means hope in Sindarin. The name served both as protection and as prophecy. In an age when Sauron was actively searching for Isildur's heir, hiding Aragorn's true identity was vital. Elrond concealed the boy's lineage from him. Aragorn grew up among the elves for many years without knowing who he truly was. His childhood in Rivendell profoundly shaped him. He was raised in elven wisdom, elven poetry, and the arts of elven warfare. Arwen did not merely offer him shelter, he educated him as one of Middle-earth's finest. When Aragorn turned 20, Elrond revealed the truth. He told the young man his real name, his ancestry, and that he was Isildur's heir. On that day, 2 heirlooms were given to him, the Ring of Barahir and the Shards of Narsil. The Ring of Barahir was an ancient relic from the First Age and the oldest symbol of the Dúnedain line. Narsil had been Elendil's sword. It was broken in the war against Sauron, but its pieces had been preserved through the generations. Elrond did not yet give him the Scepter of Onomenes. That scepter, the symbol of the Kingdom of Arnor, would only be granted when Aragorn had proven his worth. This detail is important because it forms the foundation of the journey Tolkien designed for Aragorn. Bloodline alone is not enough. The throne must be earned. On the same day he learned the truth, another pivotal moment occurred. While walking in the woods of Rivendell, Aragorn encountered a woman of such beauty that he cried out, mistaking her for Luthien Tinuviel. She was Arwen Undomil, Elrond's daughter. Aragorn fell in love with her at first sight. Yet this love went far beyond a simple romance. Arwen was an immortal elf. Aragorn was a mortal man. The price of their union would be Arwen's renunciation of immortality. Elrond was aware of this and told Aragorn plainly, a great destiny awaited him. He would either become the greatest of his line since Elendil or fall into darkness. He also informed Aragorn that he could not marry any woman until he became High King of both Arnor and Gondor. This condition placed an immense goal before Aragorn and shaped the decades that followed. At the age of 25, Aragorn left the safety of Rivendell and stepped into the wildlands. He joined the Rangers of the North and assumed his duties as Chieftain of the Dúnedain. The Rangers carried out a secret protective mission unknown to ordinary folk. They guarded the Shire and the peoples of the North from orc raids, warg riders, and dark creatures. The people of Bree looked down on them, and the hobbits of the Shire lived without even knowing of their existence. Aragorn performed this duty for many years unrecognized, unrewarded, driven only by duty. As chieftain of the Dúnedain, he was responsible for both the safety of his people and the continuation of Isildur's bloodline. Those years in the northern wilds honed his survival skills, tracking abilities, and harmony with nature. In the year 2956 of the Third Age, another defining encounter took place. Aragorn met Gandalf. A deep friendship and strategic partnership formed between the two. Gandalf had long been monitoring Sauron's rising power and knew that Isildur's heir would play a pivotal role in the coming struggle. Aragorn trusted Gandalf's wisdom and broad perspective on Middle-earth's fate. As the wisest of the Istari, Gandalf provided Aragorn not only with military guidance but also with political and strategic counsel. Their alliance was built on mutual respect and a shared purpose, preparing the West against Sauron's return. This partnership would later enable crucial decisions during the War of the Ring. From 2957 to 2980, Aragorn traveled to the farthest corners of Middle-earth. Concealing his identity, he first entered the service of King Thingol of Rohan, father of Théoden. There he mastered the art of mounted warfare, the customs of the Rohirrim, and steppe strategy. He then moved on to Gondor, serving under Steward Ecthelion II. In Gondor, he used the name Thorongil, which means Eagle of the Star in Sindarin. He earned the name because of the silver star he wore on his cloak and his sharp-eyed, swift command. Ecthelion placed great trust in Thorongil and made him one of his closest advisors. However, Ecthelion's son Denethor viewed the foreign commander with suspicion. Denethor may have sensed Thorongil's true identity and saw him as a rival to his own position in his father's eyes. Thorongil's close relationship with Gandalf further fueled Denethor's hostility. As Denethor did not trust the wizard, Aragorn's greatest military achievement in Gondor came in 2980, when he led a daring raid against the corsairs of Umbar. With a small Gondorian fleet, Thorongil sailed south, stormed the corsairs' harbor, burned their ships, and personally slew the harbor captain. This victory strategically weakened the southern threat to Gondor for many years. Yet immediately after the triumph, Thorongil did something unexpected. He abandoned his army and his fame and set out alone toward the east. His men were left bewildered. As he departed, Thorongil left a message for Ecthelion, advising the steward not to trust Saruman but to listen instead to Gandalf. This counsel would prove remarkably prescient years later when Saruman's treachery was revealed. After the victory at Umbar, Aragorn journeyed into lands where the stars were strange, ruin, and Harad facing dangers in the territories of Sauron's allies. The books give few details of these travels, but we know from Aragorn's own words that he walked in lands where the stars are strange. He roamed the borders of Mordor and observed firsthand how far the Dark Lord's power had spread. During these journeys he traveled alone, without the protection of an army or the patronage of any lord. He perfected the arts of survival in the wild, tracking and moving unseen through enemy lands. These years forged the experience that would later make him both a warrior and a strategist in the War of the Ring. In the same year, 2980, Aragorn came to Lothlorien and met Arwen again. The love that had begun 30 years earlier in Rivendell became a solemn pledge on the hill of Sarin Amroth among the Pelennor flowers. Aragorn was 49, a man who had fought, served, and lived in the shadows for decades. Arwen, though she appeared young, had lived for more than 1,000 years. In that moment she chose her fate. She would give up her immortality and accept the gift of men. The decision was not merely romantic. Arwen was willingly leaving behind her father, her brothers, and the eternal peace of Valinor. Just as Luthien had done for Beren in the First Age, Arwen chose to forsake endless life for the mortal she loved. When Aragorn returned to Rivendell and told Elrond, The elf lord received the news with sorrow but did not change his condition. He would give his daughter only to the man who became High King of both Gondor and Arnor. Elrond's stance was not harshness. He wanted his daughter to accept a mortal life only for the greatest of purposes. For the next 20 years and more, Aragorn continued his duties as a ranger, while also undertaking a special quest at Gandalf's request to find Gollum. Gandalf suspected that the ring Bilbo carried might be the One Ring, and Gollum was the only living witness who could confirm or refute that suspicion. Aragorn hunted Gollum for years through dangerous swamps, dark forests, and the borders of Mordor. Finally, in 1307, he captured Gollum in the Dead Marshes and delivered him to the elves of Thranduil in Mirkwood. This success played a critical role at the beginning of the War of the Ring. During these long years of searching, Aragorn visited his mother in Eriador. Gilrian had left Rivendell to live alone near her own people. When Aragorn saw her, she had grown old and filled with sorrow. She told him she sensed her approaching death and spoke her famous words, "Onen I estel idan, uka ben estel animen." I gave hope to the Dúnedain. I have kept none for myself. Gilran died in 3007. The loss deepened Aragorn's solitude. He no longer had a father or a mother only. His duty, his love, and his destiny remained. In 3588, events accelerated at Gandalf's summons. Frodo Baggins was carrying the One Ring and had been forced to flee the Shire. Aragorn met Frodo and his companions at the Prancing Pony Inn in Bree. The hobbits were suspicious of the weather-beaten man sitting quietly in the corner with his sharp gaze. The people of Bree knew him as Strider. With the help of Gandalf's letter, Aragorn won the hobbits' trust and took on the task of guiding them to Rivendell. When they were attacked by the ringwraiths on Withertop, Aragorn held off 5 Nazgûl with fire. Frodo was wounded by a Morgul blade, and Aragorn kept him alive with Athelas until they reached Elrond's healing power. At the Council of Elrond and Rivendell, Aragorn stood out as one of the key figures. He placed the shards of the broken sword on the table and openly declared his identity as Isildur's heir. Narsil was reforged by the elven smiths of Rivendell and given the new name Andúril, Flame of the West. This sword became the physical symbol of Aragorn's royal claim. When the Fellowship of the Ring was formed, Aragorn joined as the most experienced and skilled warrior alongside Gandalf. His original plan was to travel to Gondor with Boromir, but after Gandalf's fall he was forced to assume leadership of the company. During the passage through the mines of Moria, Gandalf fell while fighting the Balrog of Moria. The loss shook the Fellowship deeply. Aragorn took command, though the transition was not easy. Boromir, as the steward's son, saw himself as the natural leader and inwardly resisted Aragorn's authority. The ring's influence on Boromir grew stronger, and tensions within the group increased daily. In Lothlorien, Celeborn and Galadriel hosted the Fellowship. Galadriel gave Aragorn an elf stone, a green gem that was a wedding gift from Arwen's family to her future husband, and would later give him the name Elessar, meaning elf stone, in Quenya. At the Falls of Rauros, the Fellowship broke. Boromir, succumbing to the ring's power, tried to take it from Frodo. Frodo and Sam decided to go alone to Mordor. Boromir died defending Merry and Pippin from the Uruk-hai. In his final moments, he grasped Aragorn's hand, confessed his faults, and acknowledged him as king. Aragorn honored the fallen warrior by calling him Son of Gondor. After Boromir's fall, Aragorn, Legolas, and Gimli pursued the trail of Merry and Pippin. In Rohan, they met Éomer. It was then that Aragorn openly declared his identity. I am Aragorn's son of Arathorn, and I am called Elessar, the Elfstone, Dúnedain, the heir of Isildur, son of Elendil of Gondor. Here is the sword that was broken and is forged again. This moment marked Aragorn's decision to stop hiding his identity. In Fangorn Forest, an unexpected miracle occurred. Gandalf returned as the White Wizard. Together, the four of them went to Edoras and freed King Théoden from Saruman's influence. The Battle of the Hornburg showcased Aragorn's military genius once more. When Saruman's army of 10,000 Uruk-hai attacked Helm's Deep, Aragorn played a central role in the defense of Rohan. Throughout the long night of bloody fighting, he managed the inner defenses and kept the warriors' morale high. The military experience he had gained years earlier in Gondor and Rohan proved invaluable. At dawn, Gandalf arrived with Erkenbrand's reinforcements, turning the battle and destroying Saruman's army. The victory proved that Aragorn was not only a formidable individual warrior, but also a gifted commander. After the fall of Isengard, Aragorn took a step that would shape his destiny. He used the Palantir in Orthanc. Through the Seeing Stone, he revealed himself directly to Sauron, declaring that he was Isildur's heir and that he bore Andúril. It was an extremely bold and calculated move. Aragorn's goal was to draw Sauron's attention to himself, thereby giving Frodo more time to reach Mordor. Sauron believed the One Ring might now be in Aragorn's hands and launched his attack prematurely and unprepared. This strategic deception directly influenced the course of the war. Aragorn's bravest and most fateful decision was to take the paths of the dead. This cursed passage beneath the White Mountains was a place no one had dared enter for centuries. Trapped within were the spirits of the men of the mountains who had once sworn loyalty to the King of Gondor and then broken their oath. Isildur had cursed them, declaring they would know no rest until they fulfilled their oath. As Isildur's rightful heir, Aragorn had the right to summon them. With the Grey Company of Rangers, he entered the paths of the dead and took command of the dead army. With this host of ghosts he marched on Pelargir, routed the corsairs, seized their ships, and sailed up the Anduin River toward Minas Tirith with the soldiers he had gathered from Gondor's southern fiefs. The Battle of the Pelennor Fields was one of the greatest engagements of the Third Age. Sauron's vast army had besieged Minas Tirith, and the city was on the brink of falling. Steward Denethor, driven mad by the despair he had seen in the Palantir, had set himself ablaze in suicide. King Théoden had fallen on the muddy fields of the Pelennor. Just as hope seemed lost, the black ships of the corsairs appeared on the Anduin. For a moment the defenders of Gondor despaired, thinking the enemy had also come by sea. But it was Aragorn who stepped from the ships, unfurling the royal standard Arwen had made for him. On it were embroidered the white tree of Gondor and the 7 stars of Elendil's house crowned with a crown. Despair turned instantly to joy. With the support of the southern forces, the armies of Gondor and Rohan united and routed Sauron's host. After the battle, Aragorn revealed his healing power in the Houses of Healing. Using Athelas, he cured Faramir, Éowyn, and Merry, who had been stricken by the black breath of the Ringwraiths. An ancient belief in Gondor held that the hands of the king are the hands of a healer, and thus shall the true king be known. Aragorn's healing gifts spread quickly among the people, and they began to call him Elessar. Yet Aragorn acted with great political caution. Faramir, Denethor's son, still lived and held the office of steward. To avoid internal conflict, Aragorn refrained from entering the city formally until the crown was offered. To deliver the final blow against Sauron and buy Frodo more time, Aragorn led the remaining armies of the West to the Black Gate, in what was, militarily speaking, an unwinnable battle. The goal was not victory, but to draw Sauron's gaze. With roughly 7,000 men, Aragorn stood before the gates of Mordor and openly challenged the Dark Lord. The mouth of Sauron emerged as an emissary, hinting that Frodo had been captured and demanding surrender. Aragorn rejected the bluff. In the Battle of the Morannon, he arrayed his outnumbered force against Sauron's overwhelming might. At the very moment when destruction seemed certain, Frodo destroyed the ring in the fires of Mount Doom. Sauron fell, Barad-dûr crumbled, and the Dark Lord's armies disintegrated. Aragorn's final gamble had succeeded. On May 1, 3009 of the Third Age, Aragorn was crowned High King of Gondor and Arnor in Minas Tirith. Faramir, acting as steward, conducted the coronation and proclaimed Aragorn's kingship before the people. Gandalf placed the crown upon his head. Aragorn chose the royal name Elessar Telcontar. Elessar means elf stone, while Telcontar is the Quenya word for strider. In this way, Aragorn honored rather than denied his past. He united his years of exile, his identity as a ranger, and his elven heritage into a single name. Tolkien used this name choice to summarize Aragorn's character, a king who did not view his humblest years as a source of shame, but as an integral part of his identity. In midsummer, Arwen came from Rivendell and married Aragorn. After seeing his daughter one last time, Elrond delivered the scepter of Anúminas to Aragorn. Thus Isildur's broken line was restored, and Arnor and Gondor were reunited under a single crown after more than 1,000 years of separation. King Elessar's reign marked the beginning of a new age in Middle-earth. In the early years of the Fourth Age, Aragorn reunited the long-divided Dúnedain realms of Gondor and Arnor. He strengthened the alliance with Rohan according to the Oath of Eorl. He declared the Shire a free land, under the protection of the North Kingdom, and forbade men from entering it, a decision that reflected his deep respect for the hobbits' freedom and way of life. He rebuilt the capital of Minas Tirith, restored Ithilien, and established fair and peaceful rule for the dominion of men. Aragorn and Arwen had a son named Eldarion and at least 2 daughters. They lived together in kingship and happiness for 120 years. Yet Aragorn possessed the ancient privilege of the Númenorian kings, the right to lay down his life before old age brought mental and physical decline. In the year 120 of the Fourth Age, at the age of 210, he felt the approach of frailty. Turning to Arwen, he said that if he did not depart now, he would soon be forced to leave his throne in weakness and senility. In the house of the kings in Rath-Dînen, he lay down on the bed prepared for him and passed the crown and scepter to his son Eldarion. Arwen was devastated. For the first time as an immortal being, she fully understood the true meaning of death. She told Aragorn how bitter she found the gift of men. Aragorn, even in his final words, kept his wisdom and hope, but let us not be defeated in this last test. We who rejected the shadow and the ring should not fall into despair, but only into sorrow. We are not bound forever to the circles of the world, and beyond them is more than memory. With these words, he closed his eyes and fell asleep. His body remained in an undimmed majesty rather than decay. Aragorn's death was Tolkien's most powerful expression of the philosophy that presented the mortality of men not as a curse, but as the gift of Eru Ilúvatar. After Aragorn's death, Arwen left Minas Tirith. The light of the elves had gone from her eyes. She seemed cold and gray to her people, as though a starless winter night had fallen upon her. She no longer had a ship to sail to Valinor, nor an immortal life. She returned to LOTR, but it was no longer the golden wood she had known. Galadriel and Celeborn had already left Middle-earth. The leaves had fallen, the golden light had faded. The Malorn trees were bare, and the forest was silent. Arwen climbed the hill of Saran Amroth, where she had once pledged herself to Aragorn, and there laid herself to rest. In the year 121 of the Fourth Age, at the age of 2901, she departed this world, living Lúthien's story once more. Her death marked the closing of an age in Tolkien's universe. The final bond between elves and men was severed. Aragorn's story is one of the most complete character arcs in Tolkien's legendarium. A child orphaned at 2, identity hidden, raised in secrecy. a man who spent decades fighting, loving, and waiting to prove his worth. And finally, a king who earned both his throne and his love. Tolkien portrayed Aragorn not merely as a hero, but as a figure who embodied the meaning of mortality, the cost of sacrifice, and the power of hope. It was no coincidence that he was named Estil Hope. He was the living embodiment of hope in the darkest age. Even in death, he did not abandon it. A man who served his people for more than 60 years without a crown, who sacrificed even his name to protect them, ultimately ushered in the Age of Men. Aragorn's legacy was not merely a kingdom. He showed the world that hope is never in vain. This video ends here. If you want to dive deeper into Middle-earth and discover the real stories behind the characters, don't forget to subscribe to Extreme Stories.